Have you ever wondered if the myths of dragons, lake monsters, and serpents from ancient legends were more than just stories? What if one of those impossible creatures wasn't just a tale told around a fire, but something that truly lived, breathed, and hunted? They say every legend has a seed of truth. And in the silent stone of ancient fossils, one such truth was uncovered. A creature so strange, so unearthly that paleontologists themselves hesitated to believe it. Its name? Hyphalosaurus. A name few have heard, yet its shape is burned into the fears of humankind. It lived 120 million years ago in the early Cretaceous, long before humans ever walked the earth. But when its fossilized body was unearthed in the depths of China's Liaoning province, it looked like something that should not exist. Long, sinuous, serpent-like, with a neck stretching impossibly far, ending in a small, eerie head. Its body stretched out like a water demon, with limbs designed for swimming, not unlike the creatures whispered about in lakes and rivers across the world. The first discovery in the late 1990s should have been a triumph of paleontology. Instead, it stirred an unsettling sensation. Because when people saw it, they didn't say dinosaur. They said dragon. The fossils were nearly perfect, preserved with even their outlines visible, as if this monster had been frozen in time, waiting to be rediscovered. Whole schools of them were found, their bodies locked in stone. What unsettled experts most was how they looked not like something from prehistory, but like something from folklore, as if the myths of serpentine water demons across cultures had been shaped by some ancient memory of this creature. Imagine a body 3 to 4 feet long, most of it neck and tail, with ribs that flared wide, making its body look like a spectral shadow. Its head was sharp, needle-thin, with rows of small teeth designed to snatch prey from the water. When you look at the fossil, it's hard to believe this wasn't carved by some ancient artist to terrify onlookers. But it was no carving. It was real. And here's where the story turns darker. The lakes where Hyphalosaurus was found were not ordinary. They were part of a region that had been volcanically active. Ash had rained down, suffocating creatures, trapping them instantly in layers of stone. Scientists tell us this is why the Hyphalosaurus remains are so well preserved. But locals who heard of the discovery whispered something different. They believed the creatures had been cursed, trapped beneath the earth because they were never meant to walk the world of men. And here's the thing. This isn't the first time humanity has reacted with fear to such discoveries. From the myths of Chinese dragons, Japanese water demons like the Kappa, and European lake monsters, there is a strange common thread: long-necked, water-dwelling serpents. Could all of those stories have been seeded by ancient fossils like Hyphalosaurus, dug up centuries ago, misinterpreted as the remains of monsters? Or worse, could they have been seeded by fleeting encounters with creatures that survived far longer than science admits? In the dark recesses of our shared memory, Hyphalosaurus is not just a fossil. It is a reminder of something terrifyingly familiar. The truth is, this so-called forgotten dragon wasn't alone. Its fossils show that it often appeared in groups, moving together like a haunting procession beneath the water's surface. Imagine a school of these long-necked phantoms gliding silently beneath a prehistoric lake, their long shadows twisting beneath you. Their necks darting suddenly to snap at passing prey, their bodies winding like specters in the dark. Even the name Hyphalosaurus means submerged lizard, a name that feels less like science and more like a warning. Because when you look at the fossil, with its ribs stretched like wings, its serpentine body frozen in stone, and its lifeless head tilted upwards as if gasping for one last breath, it doesn't feel like you're looking at something extinct. It feels like you're looking at something waiting. Something that was buried, but not gone. This is only the beginning of its story. But already one question burns. If this real-life dragon existed once, what makes us so sure it isn't still out there, hiding in the dark waters where myths are born? What happens when a fossil looks too much like a monster from our oldest stories? History tells us something unsettling. People rarely see bones and think of science. They see relics of gods, demons, and spirits. When Hyphalosaurus was first uncovered, whispers began in the villages near Liaoning province. The farmers who had worked those lands for generations were not surprised. To them, the creature had always been there, not in stone but in story. They called it the long serpent of the drowned, a spirit that lurked in the deep lakes, dragging men and animals below the surface. Children were warned never to wander near the dark waters at night, because the serpent would coil its neck around them and pull them under. And when the fossilized shapes of Hyphalosaurus appeared, twisted and intertwined in death, it was seen as proof that the warnings were true. But here's the strange part. These stories weren't unique to China. Across the world, ancient cultures described rituals to appease the water serpent. Offerings of food, coins, and even blood spilled into rivers and lakes were common. It is almost as if humanity has always carried a memory of something long-necked, serpent-bodied, and hungry waiting beneath the waves. In Chinese folklore, dragons were not always benevolent. Many were tied to water, rain, and storms, living in lakes and rivers, demanding respect. In Japan, the kappa dragged victims into rivers. In Europe, lake monsters like the Loch Ness serpent were said to drown fishermen. And in the New World, Native American tribes spoke of horned water serpents that lurked beneath still waters. Different continents, different cultures, yet always the same figure, the long-bodied, water-dwelling dragon. And so the discovery of Hyphalosaurus became something of a dark bridge between science and superstition. The bones were seen not only as fossils but as the remains of a creature that people had always feared. In some villages, people performed rituals of binding, burying charms near lakes to ensure the serpent would remain trapped. In others, they performed rituals of release, prayers to keep the restless spirit from rising again. Archaeologists studying burial sites near the Liaoning region uncovered strange offerings left in shallow graves. Small carvings of serpentine creatures, charred bones, and shards of pottery marked with spiral patterns. Were these ordinary cultural artifacts? Or were they desperate attempts to contain something humanity could not fully understand? Some even believed that the fossils themselves carried a curse. It was said that anyone who touched the stone bodies of Hyphalosaurus without proper rituals risked carrying the spirit of the serpent with them. Paleontologists laughed at such claims, but the villagers whispered about strange events. Men falling ill after disturbing the fossils, accidents striking those who removed the bones from the ground, shadows moving beneath the waters where the fossils were first found. And then there were the dreams. Some of the earliest workers who unearthed the Hyphalosaurus fossils reported having the same nightmare. A dark lake, silent as death, with 100 pale shapes moving just beneath the surface. Long necks curling, sharp heads twisting, eyes that did not blink. A procession of drowned things, waiting to rise. To the superstitious, this was not coincidence. It was the dragon whispering to those who disturbed it. A warning. What makes this all the more disturbing is how well preserved the fossils were. Some were found in clusters, dozens of Hyphalosaurus locked together in death, their necks twisted as though strangling one another. Scientists explained it as volcanic ash suffocating the lake, killing them all at once. But to the locals, the sight was different. It looked like a ritual sacrifice. An entire school of monsters bound and buried by the earth itself, as if nature had performed a great exorcism. And so the beliefs grew darker. If Hyphalosaurus had been drowned once to rid the world of it, what would happen if the earth gave it back? Legends say water remembers. That rivers and lakes carry the memories of all things that died within them. If that is true, then every fossil of Hyphalosaurus is not just stone, but a key to something ancient, restless, and waiting. And when you touch it, when you look into those empty sockets preserved for millions of years, you are not just looking at the past. You are waking it. The villagers' rituals may seem like superstition, but one must wonder, were they protecting themselves from myth? Or from memory? Because when something as terrifying as Hyphalosaurus is rediscovered, it is not just bones we are digging up. It is fear itself, crawling back into the light. And that fear leads to one question. What if those rituals weren't just old traditions, but warnings? Warnings that humanity ignored. Hyphalosaurus should have been forgotten. A creature that lived and died more than 100 million years ago, its bones sealed away in stone. Yet strangely, it wasn't. Its shape, its form, its shadow, lingered. When its fossils were revealed, people around the world saw something disturbingly familiar. Long neck, slender body, water-dwelling, teeth designed for sudden strikes. It was as if every ancient monster we had ever feared had been drawn from this one creature. How could that be possible when humans never walked the earth at the same time? Unless we carried its memory in another way. The Chinese have told stories of dragons for thousands of years, long-bodied, serpent-like beings that rose from lakes and rivers, bringing storms and floods. Some were revered, but many were feared. What if those dragons were not born of imagination, but of discovery? Farmers, digging into riverbanks centuries ago, might have unearthed the fossilized remains of Hyphalosaurus and mistaken them for the bones of a dragon. How else do you explain the perfect resemblance? The same is true elsewhere. In Europe, tales of lake monsters, from the Loch Ness serpent in Scotland to creatures said to haunt the lakes of Scandinavia, always describe long necks gliding through dark waters. In North America, native tribes whispered of horned serpents that lived beneath the lakes, demanding respect and sacrifice. In Japan, the dreaded kappa was not always described as a comical turtle spirit. In its earliest forms, It was a water demon with a long neck and a hunger for human flesh. The echoes are everywhere. Different lands, different cultures, and yet the same shadow, the same shape, always returning. Scientists dismiss this as coincidence. They say humans are naturally drawn to certain patterns, that serpents and water spirits are common symbols. But is that explanation enough? Or is it possible that the legacy of Hyphalosaurus is not scientific but psychological, etched into our subconscious as a creature too terrifying to forget? And here's where it gets darker. Modern sightings. Even today, reports emerge of strange shapes in the water. Photographs of long necks breaking the surface. Eyewitnesses swearing they saw something coil beneath the waves. Most are dismissed as hoaxes or mistakes. But the descriptions, they are always the same. The same shape, the same haunting silhouette that matches Hyphalosaurus perfectly. How can it be that across oceans and centuries, the image remains unchanged? What if it isn't a myth at all? What if Hyphalosaurus, or something like it, survived? Because let's remember, the fossil record is incomplete. Science admits that what we have uncovered is only a fraction of what once lived. Countless creatures vanished without leaving a trace. So why not the opposite? Why couldn't one linger? Legends of dragons in lakes and rivers may not just be folklore, but sightings of a living remnant. Imagine one surviving population, hidden deep in unexplored waters, moving silently, avoiding mankind. Would we not dismiss them as myth? Would we not laugh at those who claim to see them, just as scientists laughed when villagers warned of disturbing the serpent bones? And even if Hyphalosaurus itself is truly gone, its legacy still haunts us. Fossils misidentified as dragon bones shaped entire cultures. Myths of water demons spread like ripples across civilizations. And the fear of deep, dark water, of something long-necked and patient waiting beneath the surface, remains one of humanity's oldest terrors. The fossils of Hyphalosaurus may be stone, but the creature itself has become something far more enduring, an archetype of fear. A reminder that monsters are not born from nothing. They are born from memory. And the memory of Hyphalosaurus is everywhere. In the dragons painted on temple walls. In the lake monster stories told around fires. In the restless feeling you get when you stare too long at a still, black lake at night. Because maybe, just maybe, your fear is not of drowning. Maybe it is the ancient, unspoken knowledge that something is down there. Something with a long neck. Something that has been watching humanity since before humanity existed. This is the true legacy of Hyphalosaurus. It is not dead. It is not gone. It is in every story, every myth, every nightmare. And perhaps, sometimes, it is still in the water. If the story of Hyphalosaurus ended with fossils and stone, it would be easy to dismiss. Science would write its name neatly into textbooks and we would forget it. But something about this creature refuses to stay buried. Its shadow stretches across centuries, across cultures, across the very fears we carry in the deepest parts of our minds. The fossils are too perfect. Whole bodies, preserved as if captured in their last breath. Schools of them entangled together in death like a warning. Their ribs fan outward like broken wings, their necks twisted, their jaws still open as if gasping. It is a snapshot not of life, but of suffocation. As though the lake itself had swallowed them alive. And when you look into the empty sockets of those skulls, preserved for millions of years, you cannot shake the feeling that you are not just looking at a relic. You are looking into eyes that have seen things mankind was never meant to know. Some who worked near the fossils claimed the air grew heavier at dusk. That lakes nearby seemed darker than they should. That sometimes when the water was still, they saw ripples moving outward, though no fish broke the surface. Paleontologists call these stories superstition. But the villagers never waver. They say the serpent is patient. That what was buried in stone is only its shadow, and the true spirit of Hyphalosaurus lingers beneath the waters still. And perhaps that is why water has always unsettled us. Not the clear shallow streams but the deep, silent lakes. The black rivers that run slow and cold. The places where you cannot see the bottom. The places where your reflection trembles on the surface, and for just a moment, you wonder if something beneath is looking back at you. Hyphalosaurus was real. That much cannot be denied. A long-necked predator that ruled ancient lakes. But the question that haunts us is not about its past. It is about its persistence. Did the fossils only preserve what was once alive? Or did they preserve something else? An echo, a curse, a memory bound to water itself? Because even now stories continue. Fishermen who speak of long shadows passing beneath their boats. Hikers who claim to see a slender neck rising from mist-covered lakes. Tourists who swear something pale moved just beneath the surface before vanishing into the depths. always dismissed, always denied, yet always the same shape, always the same silence. Hyphalosaurus should have vanished 120 million years ago. And yet, when you stand by the edge of a dark lake at night, when the air is cold and the water is still, tell me, can you be certain it has? They called it the drowned serpent for a reason. And maybe, just maybe, the drowned things are still waiting. So I leave you with this. When you lean too close to the water, when you see ripples disturb the reflection of your own face, do you really know what made them? Or is it the real-life dragon they never told you about, rising again?